If you're a Harry Potter fan, then stick around, because you're about to discover 30 behind the scenes facts about Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2. When Harry got hit by Hermione, there was one take that couldn't be used because Emma Watson hit Daniel Radcliffe so hard that the thump it made in the microphone was too loud to be usable. Even though fantasy movies use a great deal of CGI, there are some aspects that are still done the old-fashioned way with practical visual effects. Two examples of this in The Half-Blood Prince are the cauldron that was rigged to light up with a press of a button, and the crochet needles that were operated by a machine. In the first Harry Potter movie, Diagon Alley was filmed outside to create an optimistic feel for the beginning of the whole story. But for the Half-Blood Prince's darker tone, they changed the location to film the alley inside a soundstage. The motorcycle scene only lasted 2 minutes, but it involved so much visual effects work that it took a year to create, from April 2009 to April 2010. Daniel Radcliffe wasn't the only one that had to mimic another actor. Helena Bonham Carter and Emma Watson exchanged many notes back and forth through text messages to help Carter mimic Watson's mannerisms, so that Hermione's portrayal of Bellatrix would look convincing. It took 150 makeup artists to get all the actors ready to film Gringotts Bank. Not only that, but it also took 2 to 3 people to apply each of the makeups to just one person. The problem was, the makeup crew didn't have 150 makeup artists on hand, so they had to borrow some from other countries. In total, there were 15 different nationalities represented in the makeup crew to create that scene. Draco and his wife had a deeper connection than we see on screen, because she was played by Tom Felton's girlfriend at the time. Rupert Grint got kicked off the set one day while filming Deathly Hallows Part 2, because he couldn't stop laughing at Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson while they were filming Harry and Hermione's kissing scene. Gringotts Bank hadn't been seen since the first movie. They had to take many of the props out of storage, such as the scales and desks, and everything was repainted and refurnished to be more elegant. Alan Rickman is known for his slow, calm delivery of his lines, but after a dozen takes, his style can try the patience of even the most experienced actors, which was the case for Maggie Smith, who teased Rickman on at least one occasion to hurry it up so they could move on to another scene. Rupert Grint was infamous for corpsing or breaking out into laughter during filming, which meant it took a lot of takes to get one good one for the movie. For example, it took 20 takes to film the short bit when Ron breaks up Ginny and Harry by sitting between them, because Rupert and Daniel kept bursting out into laughter during each take. The Half-Blood Prince was the first time we had seen a Quidditch match since the Chamber of Secrets, and Daniel Radcliffe was not happy to have to film those sequences again for Half-Blood Prince. The reason is because he said filming Quidditch matches is like sitting on a bicycle for hours without being able to put your feet down on the pedals for balance, which means certain delicate parts of his body were being crushed for several hours during filming. The casting directors looked all over the place to find the right person to play each child role in the movie, but they didn't have to look too far for the role of young Tom Riddle, because he was played by Ralph Fiennes' nephew, Hero, which as a side note is an interesting bit of irony to be named Hero while portraying the boy who grows up to become the villain. A role the casting directors did have to look far and wide for was Jessie Cave, who was one of 7 girls called back for a screen test out of 7,000 applicants to play Lavender Brown. When it came time to choose one of the 7 girls for the part, the director had each girl improvise with Rupert Grint over a 3-hour period, and Jessie was chosen because she had the best chemistry with Rupert. Kissing scenes look romantic to us in the audience, but for the actors, especially teenage actors, filming kissing scenes can be very awkward. Between the 2 girls Daniel Radcliffe had to kiss, he said it was least awkward kissing Katie Leung, who played Cho, because she was brought on board almost halfway into the film series, specifically to be Harry's love interest. On the other hand, Radcliffe said preparing to kiss Bonnie Wright, who played Ginny, was very difficult because he had to get over the fact that he had known her since she was about 10 years old. A fun Easter egg you may not have noticed is when Harry and Ginny are in the Room of Requirement, you can see the harp from the first movie that was used to put Fluffy to sleep. A few of the packages designed in the Weasley's joke shop were created in the book by J.K. Rowling, but the rest that you see in the store were created by the movie's graphic designers. The designers came up with more than 300 names, and every single one of them had to be approved even before they could begin to design what the props would look like. Once a name and its prop design were approved, then each prop had to be copied 100 times to fill the store's shelves. In total, the Weasley's Emporium is filled with 14,000 unique packages, which took 15 people 1 year to design and over 50 people to help create. An interesting cameo appearance that you probably didn't know about is this guy, Ben Shepherd, who hosted the Behind the Magic TV special about the Half-Blood Prince. And the reason why he was included in this scene is because his appearance was part of a segment of the TV special. It's just the nature of movie making that parts get cut even though they took a lot of work to produce. One example of this is a tattooed man that was supposed to appear in Nocturne Alley that took 4 makeup artists 5 hours to paint, which they said was the most difficult challenge they ever had over the entire film series, and sadly, he was edited out of the movie. If you consider yourself a die-hard Potter fan because you rewatched the movies dozens of times, I think you may have met your match. Your competition is the film editor for Half-Blood Prince, who saw the movie at least 300 times over a 14-month period. One of Daniel Radcliffe's most complicated scenes in the whole series was filming the 7 Potter scene. To create all the characters' transformations, each actor was filmed while getting dressed, and then Daniel Radcliffe watched all the footage to try and duplicate everyone's mannerisms in his own performance. He was able to copycat some people like Emma Watson quite easily, but others took several takes to get it right. By the end of it all, it took 90 takes to finish filming the scene. Since Nagini was a CG snake, they needed to give Daniel Radcliffe something to react to make his performance in Godric's Hollow look more authentic. So they built a pole with a boxing glove tied to the end of it to give Radcliffe something to dodge. However, during one take, the snake pole hit the chair Daniel was holding, sending it backward into his mouth and gave him a fat lip for the rest of the day. The last time we saw the Ministry of Magic, it was blown to bits, but for Deathly Hallows Part 1, it was all rebuilt again, with only one difference, which was a creepy statue that was used to reflect the movie's darker times. The statue is based on sculptures from Soviet Russia and pre-war Germany, and depicts the oppression of Muggles. There were 50 Muggle figures in the sculpture, and each took 2 weeks to handcraft, and were all made by one person. To create the illusion of a frozen lake when Harry retrieved the Sword of Gryffindor, they used large, thick sheets of plexiglass with frosty texture on them to make the lake look frozen. For the shots when Harry's looking up while submerged in the water, wax was used to float on top of the water to create the look of an icy surface. The director David Yates was surprised to find out how competitive the 3 leads turned out to be while filming them running through the woods. For each take, the 3 teenagers were less concerned about acting and more concerned about trying to outrun each other. It got to be so bad that at one point, Yates stepped in to remind them that they were there to film a movie and not a sprint race. 60 short people were hired to be goblins in Gringotts Bank, which created a huge logistical challenge for the makeup artists, since all 60 actors had to be on the set at the same time. Before shooting, it took 8 months to make the prosthetic masks, because they were all made to look unique so that no 2 goblins looked the same, and every single hair on each mask was individually threaded. Professor McGonagall is the one that confronts Snape in the book, but in the movie this almost didn't happen, because an early version of the script had Harry fighting Snape instead. The screenwriter did this because he thought it would be very exciting to finally see Harry get a chance to avenge Dumbledore's death. However, J.K. Rowling was not going to let that happen, because she wanted one of her most powerful female characters to show what she was really capable of. Over 2,000 wands were created for all the actors and the extras on the set. With hundreds of kids on set at one time, each needing a wand, it required the crew to stay very organized to know which one belonged to which actor and to make sure that nobody tried to steal them. To keep track of the wands, the crew had each one numbered and stored on a wooden peg board where the actors picked them up and dropped them off before they could leave the set. However, it was reported that someone accidentally took a wand off the set, and once security found out, they stopped every car at the exit gate and searched them all one by one until the missing wand was found. Most of Hogwarts gets destroyed during the final battle, so the set designers had to come up with a way to decorate the sets with truckloads of fake rubble, since it would have been too difficult to move around real rocks from set to set. so they spent 3 weeks making 400 tons of fake polystyrene rocks, and it took 10 people another 3 weeks to paint them and lay them into piles around the sets. Voldemort's speech was brilliantly acted by Ralph Fiennes, and he kept all the cast and extras on their toes because he was given free rein to call anyone out from the crowd to mock them during each take. So if you thought the hug between Voldemort and Draco looked unsettling, and maybe even a little awkward, it was one of those improvised moments, and Tom Felton didn't know how to react. If you want to check out more amazing facts about the rest of the Harry Potter movies, click the playlist you see on the screen or down in the descriptions below. And to make sure you don't miss my next video, subscribe and click the bell so you can keep learning more fun facts about your favorite films.